The winter wind howled through the empty streets of Manhattan as Adam Whitmore walked out of his office building. It was already past midnight, but that was normal for him. Success had a price, and he paid it gladly. At 45 years old, he was one of the most powerful men in New York, with a fortune that made headlines and a loneliness that nobody talked about. He walked toward his car, an expensive black Mercedes that sat in his private parking spot. The guards had already gone home. He always insisted on being the last to leave. That's when he heard it. A small sound, like a whimper, coming from under his car. Adam froze. In all his years working in this building, he'd never encountered anything like this. He bent down, ready to shoo away whatever stray animal had decided to make his car its shelter. But what he saw made his heart stop. There, curled up in a tiny ball, was a little girl. She couldn't have been more than 7 years old. Her clothes were dirty and torn, her dark hair tangled and messy. She was shivering, even in her sleep. "Hey," he said softly, not wanting to scare her. "Wake up, little one, you can't stay here." The girl's eyes fluttered open. They were big and brown, filled with a sadness no child should know. She didn't scream or try to run. Instead, she looked at him with a strange mix of hope and fear. "Are you Mr. Whitmore?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Adam felt something shift inside him. How did this child know his name? "Yes, I am. But who are you? Where are your parents?" The girl reached into her pocket with trembling hands and pulled out a crumpled photograph. "My mommy told me to find you. She said you would help me." Adam took the photograph, and in that moment, his perfectly ordered world crumbled around him. The picture showed a younger version of himself, maybe 10 years ago, standing next to a woman with a bright smile and kind eyes. Sarah. His Sarah. "Your mother." He couldn't finish the sentence. His throat felt too tight. "She's gone," the little girl said, and tears started rolling down her dirty cheeks. "She got really sick last month. Before she went to heaven, she gave me this picture and told me to find you." Adam's hands were shaking now. Sarah had died? And this child? Could it be? His mind raced back to that summer 10 years ago when Sarah had suddenly disappeared from his life without any explanation. "What's your name?" he asked, though part of him already knew the answer. "Lucy," she said. "Lucy Harrison. Mommy said..." "She said you're my daddy." The world seemed to stop spinning. Adam stared at the little girl, his daughter, and saw Sarah in every feature of her face. How had he not known? Why had Sarah kept this secret from him? "How long have you been out here, Lucy?" 3 days, she answered, hugging herself tighter. The lady at the shelter was nice, but she said they didn't have room anymore. "I saw your car yesterday, but you left before I could talk to you, so I waited." Something broke inside Adam's chest. His daughter had been sleeping under his car, waiting for him, while he sat in his warm office making million-dollar deals. Without thinking twice, he took off his expensive coat and wrapped it around her tiny shoulders. "You're not staying here another minute. Come with me." Lucy looked up at him, hope battling with uncertainty in her eyes. "Really? Really?" Adam said firmly. "I'm taking you home." As he carried her to his car, Lucy already half asleep in his arms, Adam felt tears running down his face for the first time in years. His mind was racing with questions about Sarah, about the past, about how he had missed all these years of his daughter's life. But right now, none of that mattered. All that mattered was that this little girl, his little girl, would never have to sleep under a car again. He settled her in the back seat, making sure she was warm and comfortable. As he drove through the quiet streets of New York, he kept glancing at her in the rearview mirror, hardly believing she was real. "Where are we going?" Lucy mumbled sleepily. "Home," Adam said, his voice thick with emotion. "We're going home." But as he drove toward his penthouse apartment, Adam realized he had no idea how to be a father. His life had been all about business, deals and board meetings. He didn't know the first thing about raising a child. What would she eat? Where would she sleep? What about school? He pulled out his phone and called the only person he could think of, his sister Rachel. She had 3 kids of her own and would know what to do. "Adam? Do you know what time it is?" Rachel's sleepy voice came through the speaker. "Rachel, I need your help. I just found out I have a daughter, Sarah's daughter. She's been living on the streets and I found her under my car tonight. I'm taking her home, but I don't know what to do." There was a long silence on the other end. Then Rachel said, "I'll be at your place in 30 minutes, and Adam, everything's going to be okay." As he hung up the phone, Adam looked at Lucy again. She had fallen asleep, still clutching the old photograph. His expensive coat dwarfed her tiny frame, and her face, even in sleep, held traces of the hardships she'd endured. "I promise," he whispered, more to himself than to her. "I'll make up. For every single day I wasn't there. You'll never be alone again." The city lights blurred through his tears as he drove home, knowing that his life would never be the same. The man who had everything had just discovered he'd been missing what mattered most all along. Adam's penthouse apartment had never felt so empty and cold before. As he carried Lucy inside, he realized how unsuitable his home was for a child. Everything was sleek, modern and expensive, designed to impress business associates, not to make a little girl feel comfortable. "Is this really your house?" Lucy asked, her eyes wide as she looked around. "It's like a castle." "It is," Adam said, suddenly embarrassed by all the extravagance. "But we'll make it more cozy for you." The doorbell rang. Rachel had arrived. She burst in without waiting, carrying several shopping bags. Her usually perfectly styled hair was messy, and she was wearing sweatpants, so unlike his always polished sister. "Where is she?" Rachel asked, then stopped when she saw Lucy. "Oh, Adam." Her voice softened as she took in the little girl's appearance. Lucy shrank back against Adam, clutching his coat tighter around her. It nearly broke his heart how she seemed to expect rejection at any moment. "It's okay, sweetheart," he said gently. "This is your Aunt Rachel. She's here to help us." Rachel knelt down to Lucy's level, her face warm and kind. "Hi, Lucy. I brought you some clean clothes and other things you might need. Would you like to take a warm bath?" Lucy nodded hesitantly, looking up at Adam for permission. He felt a lump in his throat. No child should have to be so careful, so afraid. "Go with Rachel," he encouraged. "I'll be right here." While Rachel helped Lucy with her bath, Adam paced in his living room making phone calls. He called his assistant to clear his schedule for the next few days. He called his lawyer about starting adoption proceedings. Even though Lucy was his biological daughter, he needed to make it legal. He called a decorator to come first thing in the morning to create a proper bedroom for a little girl. "She's asleep," Rachel said, coming out of the guest room an hour later. "I gave her one of your t-shirts to sleep in. We'll need to buy her proper pajamas tomorrow." She sat down heavily on the couch. "Adam, what happened? How did Sarah die? Why didn't she tell you about Lucy?" Adam sank into a chair, feeling the weight of the past 10 years crushing him. "I don't know, Rachel. Sarah and I, we were so in love. Then one day she just disappeared. No explanation, no goodbye. I tried to find her, but it was like she vanished into thin air. And now her daughter, your daughter, shows up sleeping. Under your car." Rachel shook her head. "It's like something out of a movie." "I should have looked harder for Sarah," Adam said, his voice breaking. "If I had found her, maybe she wouldn't have died. Maybe Lucy wouldn't have ended up on the streets." "Stop it," Rachel said firmly. "You can't change the past. What matters now is that little girl in there. She needs you, Adam. And from the way she looks at you, she's already starting to trust you." Adam ran his hands through his hair. "I don't know how to be a father, Rachel. My own father was never around. You know that. What if I mess this up?" "You won't," Rachel assured him. "Because you already love her. I can see it in your eyes. Everything else you'll learn." Just then, they heard a small cry from the guest room. Adam was on, his feet instantly rushing to Lucy's side. She was thrashing in her sleep, tears streaming down her face. "Mommy," she cried out, "don't leave me." Adam gathered her in his arms, rocking her gently. "Shh. It's okay, Lucy. I'm here. You're safe." "Tao?" Lucy's eyes flew open, wild with fear for a moment before focusing on Adam's face. "Daddy?" she whispered, testing out the word. "Yes, sweetheart. I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere." She clutched at his shirt, her small body shaking with sobs. "I miss Mommy so much. She was sick for so long, but she tried to be strong for me. She told me stories about you, how kind you were, how much you would have loved me if you knew about me." Adam felt tears rolling down his own cheeks. She was right. I would have loved you from the very first moment. And I love you now. Rachel watched from the doorway, wiping her own tears. She had never seen her brother like this. So gentle, so open with his emotions. The powerful businessman who could make or break companies with a single decision was cradling his daughter like she was made of glass. "Try to sleep, sweetheart," Adam said softly, still holding Lucy. "Tomorrow we'll go shopping. Get you everything you need. Would you like that?" Lucy nodded sleepily. "Can I get a teddy bear? I used to have one, but—" She trailed off, and Adam's heart clenched, imagining what might have happened to her belongings after Sarah died. "You can get any teddy bear you want," he promised, "and books and toys and pretty clothes, everything. Will you stay until I fall asleep?" Lucy asked, her voice small and uncertain. "I'll stay right here," Adam assured her, and he did, holding her hand until her breathing evened out and she drifted off to sleep. Later, when Rachel was leaving, she hugged her brother tightly. "Your life is going to change completely, you know that, right?" Adam looked back toward the guest room where Lucy slept. "It already has. And for the first time in my life, I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." But as he closed the door behind Rachel, a nagging worry gnawed at him. Tomorrow he would have to start dealing with the practical aspects of this situation. The press would have a field day when they found out that Adam Whitmore, New York's most eligible bachelor, had a secret daughter. His board of directors would question his judgment. And somewhere out there were answers about Sarah. Why she left, why she never told him about Lucy, what happened in the years between then and now. For tonight, though, he pushed those thoughts aside. He settled into a chair near Lucy's bed, watching her sleep, memorizing every detail of her face. His daughter. The thought still felt surreal, but in the best possible way. "I'll make it right," he whispered into the quiet room. "I promise Sarah I'll give her the life she deserves." The next morning brought chaos to Adam's perfectly ordered world. His phone wouldn't stop ringing. His assistant, board members, and the press had somehow already gotten wind of the situation. But none of that mattered when Lucy walked into his kitchen, rubbing her eyes sleepily, still wearing his oversized t-shirt. "Good morning, sweetheart," he said, trying to sound like he knew what he was doing. "Are you hungry?" Lucy nodded shyly, climbing onto one of the bar stools at the kitchen counter. "What's for breakfast?" Adam opened his fridge and felt his heart sink. There was nothing but leftover takeout, expensive wine, and some expired milk. He usually ate at restaurants or had his assistant order his meals. "How about we go out for breakfast?" he suggested. "We can start our shopping trip early." But before they could leave, the elevator dinged, and Victoria Pierce stormed into the penthouse. She was Adam's girlfriend of 6 months, or rather, the woman his publicist had suggested he date to improve his image. "Adam, darling, what's this nonsense I'm hearing about a child?" Victoria stopped short when she saw Lucy, her perfectly made-up face twisted in surprise. "Oh, it's true." Lucy shrank back in her chair and Adam instinctively moved to stand between them. "Victoria, I wasn't expecting you." "Clearly," she said, her eyes cold as she looked at Lucy. "Would you care to explain why there's a street urchin in your kitchen?" Adam felt anger rise in his chest. "This is my daughter, Lucy, and I'd appreciate it if you'd watch your tone." Victoria laughed, but there was no warmth in it. "Your daughter? Don't be ridiculous, Adam. We both know you've never been married. This is obviously some sort of scam." Lucy started to cry silently, big tears rolling down her cheeks. Adam felt something snap inside him. "Get out," he said quietly. "We're done, Victoria. I don't want to see you again." "You can't be serious," Victoria sputtered. "You're choosing this situation over me? Think about what this will do to your reputation." "I said get out." Adam's voice rose, making both Victoria and Lucy jump. "And if you ever speak about my daughter like that again, you'll regret it." After Victoria left, slamming the door behind her, Adam knelt in front of Lucy. "I'm so sorry about that, sweetheart. She had no right to say those things." Lucy wiped her eyes. "Are you going to get in trouble because of me?" No, Adam assured her, his heart breaking at her worry. "You're the most important thing in my life now. Nothing else matters. They went shopping after breakfast, buying everything a little girl could need. Lucy was overwhelmed by the stores, touching things hesitantly as if she couldn't believe she was allowed to have them. She chose a teddy bear, soft and brown with a red bow tie, and hugged it close. "What are you going to name him?" Adam asked as they walked through the mall. "Charlie," Lucy said without hesitation. That was Mommy's favorite name. She said if she ever had another baby. Her voice trailed off and Adam squeezed her hand. Charlie is a perfect name, but their peaceful shopping trip was interrupted by photographers who had somehow tracked them down. Flashbulbs went off in their faces and reporters shouted questions. "Mr. Whitmore, is it true this is your illegitimate daughter? Where has she been all these years? What happened to the mother?" Lucy buried her face in Adam's chest, trembling. He scooped her up, shielding her from the cameras, and hurried toward the exit where his driver was waiting. Back at the penthouse, Rachel was waiting with her oldest daughter, Emma, who was 12. "I thought Lucy might like to meet her cousin while we set up her room," Rachel explained. Lucy peeked out from behind Adam, clutching Charlie the bear. Emma smiled warmly. "Hi, Lucy. Want to help me organize your new books while the grown-ups do the boring stuff?" Slowly, Lucy nodded, and the two girls disappeared into what would be Lucy's room. Adam could hear Emma chattering away, and occasionally Lucy's soft responses. "She needs friends her own age," Rachel said as they unpacked shopping bags, "and she needs to go to school. Have you thought about that?" Adam ran a hand through his hair. "I've thought about nothing else, but first we need to deal with the legal issues. My lawyer is coming over this afternoon." James Morton, Adam's lawyer and old friend, arrived with a stack of papers and a grave expression. "We need to talk, Adam, alone." Rachel took the girls to the kitchen to make cookies while Adam and James sat in his office. "I've been looking into Sarah Harrison's death," James said, "and there are some irregularities. She died in a small hospital in New Jersey, but the death certificate is, well, it's suspicious, and there's no record of Lucy's birth certificate." Adam felt his blood run cold. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that someone went to a lot of trouble to hide Sarah's existence, and Lucy's, for the past 10 years. The question is why and who?" Before Adam could respond, they heard a scream from the kitchen. He ran out to find Lucy on the floor, having some sort of panic attack. She was gasping for air, her eyes wild with fear. "The bad men," she was saying, between sobs. "They'll find me. They'll take me away like they took Mommy." Adam gathered her in his arms, rocking her gently. "No one is going to take you away, Lucy. I promise. But can you tell me about these bad men?" Lucy shook her head violently, burying her face in his chest. "Mommy said never to talk about them. Never, ever." Adam looked at James over Lucy's head, seeing his own concern reflected in his friend's eyes. What had Sarah gotten involved in? What had she been protecting Lucy from? "It's okay," he soothed, though his mind was racing. "You're safe now. I won't let anyone hurt you." But as he held his trembling daughter, Adam knew this was just the beginning. Someone had forced Sarah to disappear all those years ago. Someone had possibly been responsible for her death. And now that Lucy had found him, that someone might be coming for her too. He needed answers, but more than that, he needed to protect his daughter. Looking at Lucy's tear-stained face, he made a silent vow. He would find out what happened to Sarah, and he would make sure that Lucy never had to be afraid again, no matter what it cost him. That night, after Lucy had finally fallen asleep, clutching Charlie the bear, Adam sat in his office with James and Rachel, trying to piece together the puzzle of Sarah's disappearance. "Tell me everything you remember about the last time you saw her," James said, notepad ready. Adam closed his eyes, remembering. "For that day 10 years ago, it was a normal morning. Sarah was excited about a new job she'd gotten at Carlton Industries. She kissed me goodbye, said she'd see me for dinner." His voice caught. That was it. She never came home. "Carlton Industries?" Rachel sat up straighter. "Adam, isn't that Marcus Carlton's company? Your biggest competitor?" Adam nodded slowly. "I didn't make the connection until now. I was so worried about Sarah, I never thought about where she was going that day." James was typing rapidly on his laptop. "Carlton Industries had a major security breach that same year, something about stolen research data. The case was quietly settled out of court. "You think Sarah was involved?" Rachel asked. "I think," James said carefully, "that Sarah might have discovered something she wasn't supposed to know, something big enough to make her run and hide." A small sound made them all turn. Lucy stood in the doorway, wearing her new pink pajamas, tears streaming down her face. "Lucy, sweetheart," Adam rushed to her. "Did you have another nightmare?" She shook her head. "I heard you talking about Mommy, the bad men. They worked at that place. The one you said. They kept following us. We had to move a lot." Adam picked her up, sitting her on his lap. "Can you tell us about these men, Lucy? What did they look like?" "They wore dark suits," Lucy whispered. "Mommy said they were dangerous. She said if they caught us..." She started trembling again. "It's okay," Adam soothed. "You don't have to say more. You're safe now." But after he'd tucked Lucy back into bed, Adam felt cold anger building inside him. Someone had terrorized Sarah and Lucy for years. Had they been responsible for Sarah's death too? The next morning, Adam made a decision. He called his assistant, Margaret, who had worked for him for 15 years. "Cancel all my meetings for the next month," he told her, "and get me everything you can find on Carlton Industries from 10 years ago. Every employee, every project, everything." "Mr. Whitmore," Margaret hesitated, "there's something else you should know. Ms. Victoria Pierce has been talking to the press. She's claiming that Lucy isn't really your daughter, that this is all a scam for publicity." Adam gripped the phone tighter. "Handle it, Margaret. Whatever it takes." He hung up to find Lucy watching morning cartoons, laughing for the first time since he'd found her. The sound made his heart lighter. "Daddy?" she asked during a commercial. "Can we go to the park today? Mommy and I used to go to parks sometimes." Adam smiled. "Of course we can, sweetheart." But at the park he noticed a man in a dark suit watching them. When Adam stared back, the man quickly walked away. That afternoon, Rachel brought over some old photo albums. "Look what I found," she said, showing Lucy pictures of Adam when he was younger. Lucy traced the photos with her finger. "You look like Mommy's pictures." She had a whole box of them hidden under her bed. Adam and Rachel exchanged glances. "Do you know where that box is now, Lucy?" Lucy's face fell. "The mean lady at our last apartment threw everything away after Mommy." She couldn't finish the sentence. "What mean lady?" Adam asked gently. "Mrs. Pearson. She owned the building. When Mommy got sick, she said we had to leave because we couldn't pay rent. But Mommy was too sick to move. After Mommy went to heaven, Mrs. Pearson threw all our things in the trash." Adam made another mental note. Mrs. Pearson might have answers about Sarah's last days. Later that evening, while Lucy was drawing pictures in her new room, James called with news. "I found something," he said. "Sarah's old employee ID from Carlton Industries. She wasn't just any employee, Adam. She worked in their top-secret research division. And guess who else worked there? Thomas Griffin." Adam's blood ran cold. Griffin had been his head of research until 3 years ago when he died in a suspicious car accident. "There's more," James continued. "Griffin's death wasn't the only one. 3 other scientists from that division died in accidents over the past decade." "And Sarah?" Adam asked, though he already knew the answer. "Her death certificate lists natural causes, but I got hold of her medical records. The symptoms she displayed. Adam, it looks like poison. Slow-acting, hard to detect. Someone wanted her to suffer." Adam felt sick. What had Sarah discovered that was worth killing for? A knock at his office door interrupted his thoughts. Lucy stood there holding a drawing. "I made this for you," she said shyly. It showed 3 figures. A man in a suit, a woman with a bright smile, and a little girl between them, all holding hands. "It's us with Mommy in heaven." Adam hugged her tight, fighting back tears. "It's beautiful, sweetheart. We'll frame it and put it right here on my desk." That night, as he watched Lucy sleep, Adam made another promise to himself. He would find out who had destroyed Sarah's life and threatened his daughter. And when he did, they would learn what happened to people who hurt the ones Adam Whitmore loved. But first, he had a stop to make tomorrow. A certain apartment building in New Jersey, where a Mrs. Pearson had some explaining to do about Sarah's last days. The mystery was deepening, and Adam knew that somewhere in Sarah's past lay answers that could put his daughter in danger. But he would solve it, no matter what it took. Lucy deserved to know the truth about her mother, and Sarah deserved justice. For now, though, he focused on the sound of his daughter's peaceful breathing, grateful that at least for tonight, she felt safe enough to sleep without nightmares. The apartment building in New Jersey looked even worse than Adam had imagined. Paint peeled from the walls and the stairwell smelled of mold. His heart ached thinking of Sarah and Lucy living here during their final months together. "This is where you and Mommy lived?" he asked Lucy, who had insisted on coming with him. She nodded, gripping his hand tighter. "Apartment 3B. Mrs. Pearson lives in 1A. They found Mrs. Pearson's door, its brass numbers hanging crooked. Adam knocked, and after a long moment, a heavy-set woman in her 60s opened the door. "Yeah, what do you want?" Then her eyes landed on Lucy, and all the color drained from her face. But you disappeared." "Mrs. Pearson," Adam said smoothly, "I'm Adam Whitmore, Lucy's father. We need to talk about Sarah Harrison." The woman tried to close the door, but Adam was faster, blocking it with his foot. "Please," he said. "Sarah was Lucy's mother. She died here. I need to know what happened." Mrs. Pearson's eyes darted around nervously. "Not here," she whispered. "Meet me at the diner across the street in an hour. Alone." Adam looked down at Lucy, who was trembling slightly. He couldn't leave her, but he needed answers. "My sister Rachel is waiting in the car," he told Mrs. Pearson. "She'll stay with Lucy while we talk." An hour later, Adam sat across from Mrs. Pearson in a worn vinyl booth. She kept looking over her shoulder at the door. "Sarah was a good tenant," she began, wrapping her hands around a coffee cup. "Quiet, always paid on time, even if it meant taking extra shifts at the diner. But then those men started coming around." "What men?" "Suits. Expensive ones. They'd watch the building." Sarah was terrified of them, started teaching Lucy to hide, to be quiet, to always have a backup plan. Mrs. Pearson's voice shook. "Then Sarah got sick, real fast, but she wouldn't go to the hospital." "Why not?" "She said they'd find her there. She made me promise to look after Lucy if anything happened. Gave me a letter to hold on to." Mrs. Pearson reached into her purse with trembling hands and pulled out an envelope. "I was supposed to give this to Lucy when she was 18, but maybe you should have it now." Adam took the envelope. It was addressed to Lucy in Sarah's handwriting. "The day Sarah died," Mrs. Pearson continued, "one of those men came to see her. I heard yelling. When he left, Sarah was crying. She died that night. And Lucy disappeared before I could stop her. Smart kid. She knew those men would come looking." Mrs. Pearson wiped her eyes. "I kept all their things in my storage unit. Couldn't bear to throw them away, no matter what I told Lucy. It's all still there if you want it." Back in the car, Lucy was asleep, with her head in Rachel's lap. Adam showed his sister the letter. "Should we open it?" Rachel asked. Adam stared at Sarah's handwriting. "No, it's for Lucy, when she's ready." They drove to the storage unit Mrs. Pearson had mentioned. Inside, they found boxes of Sarah's belongings, clothes, books, photos, and at the bottom of one box, a laptop. "It doesn't work," Rachel said, trying to turn it on. "Maybe not," Adam replied, "but I know someone who might be able to fix it." He called Marcus Chen, his company's head of IT security. "I need this analyzed, carefully. And Marcus, keep it completely off the books." That evening, Lucy explored the boxes of her mother's things, tears mixing with smiles as she rediscovered treasured memories. "Look," she exclaimed, pulling out a photo album. "These are from when I was a baby." Adam sat with her, looking through the photos. Each one was like a knife to his heart. All the moments he'd missed, all the times Lucy had needed a father and he hadn't been there. Then Lucy found something else, a small jewelry box. Inside was a simple silver locket. "Mommy's special necklace," Lucy whispered. "She never took it off except the day before she died. She said it was very important and she had to hide it." Adam examined the locket. It looked ordinary enough, but when he tried to open it, it seemed stuck. His phone rang. It was Marcus. "Boss, you need to see this. The laptop's hard drive was encrypted, but I found something in the temporary files. It's about Project Nightshade." "What's Project Nightshade?" "It looks like some kind of chemical weapon development program. And get this, Carlton Industries wasn't just researching it. They were testing it on people. Adam's blood ran cold. Send me everything you found. And Marcus, be careful. This is bigger than we thought. After hanging up, Adam looked at Lucy, who had fallen asleep surrounded by her mother's things. The silver locket glinted in her hand. He gently took it, examining it more closely. There was something odd about the way it was sealed. It's almost like it's not stuck, he whispered to himself. It's a USB drive. Sarah hadn't just discovered Carlton Industries' secret, she'd stolen proof, and she'd hidden it in plain sight, knowing that someday Lucy would find her way to Adam. But if he was right, that meant the men who'd killed Sarah weren't done. They'd never stop looking for that locket. And now that Lucy had surfaced, they knew exactly where to find it. Adam made some calls. Within an hour, private security teams were stationed around the building. He had panic buttons installed in every room, but would it be enough? Looking at Lucy's peaceful face, Adam knew one thing for certain. He wouldn't let anyone hurt her. Sarah had died protecting their daughter. Now it was his turn to keep Lucy safe, no matter what it took. But first, he needed to know exactly what was on that locket. And more importantly, he needed to understand why Sarah had chosen to run instead of coming to him for help. What had scared her so badly that she'd rather disappear than risk involving him? The answer, he suspected, would change everything. And somewhere in the city, in a dark office at Carlton Industries, someone was already planning their next move. Marcus. Chen's downtown lab was nothing like the sleek offices at Whitmore Industries. It was cluttered with computers and strange equipment, and the only light came from dozens of screens. The locket's definitely a storage device, Marcus said, carefully connecting it to his computer. But the encryption is unlike anything I've ever seen. It could take days to crack it. Adam paced the small space. He'd left Lucy with Rachel and her family, surrounded by security guards. Still, he couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out. We don't have days, he said. Carlton Industries already knows Lucy's with me. They'll figure out she has the locket. Marcus typed furiously. Wait, look at this. The encryption key. It's asking for a password. Something personal. Adam stared at the screen. What would Sarah have used? Something only Lucy would know. His phone rang. It was Rachel, sounding panicked. Adam, you need to come home now. Someone tried to break in. The security team stopped them, but Lucy... She's hysterical. She keeps asking for you. Adam's heart jumped into his throat. I'm on my... Wait, don't let anyone in, no one. He found Lucy curled up in her closet, clutching Charlie the bear. When she saw him, she launched herself into his arms, sobbing. The bad men came, she cried, just like they came for Mommy. I've got you, Adam soothed, holding her tight. You're safe, I promise. Later, after Lucy had finally calmed down and fallen asleep, Adam sat with Rachel and James in the living room, watching security footage of the attempted break-in. 2 men, James said. Professional. They knew exactly how to disable the regular security system. If you hadn't hired extra guards... They're getting desperate, Adam said. They know we have the locket. Rachel looked worried. But why now? After all these years? Because of this. Adam showed them a news article on his phone. Carlton Industries is about to announce a major new pharmaceutical division. They're claiming they've developed revolutionary new treatments. Using the research from Project Nightshade, James finished. They can't risk the truth coming out now. Lucy's voice came from the doorway, making them all jump. The Rainbow House. What? Adam asked gently. The password Mommy always used. She said it was where she was happiest. The little blue house with the rainbow door where she lived when she met you. Adam's heart stopped. He remembered that house, the tiny rental where Sarah had lived when they first fell in love. She'd painted the door in rainbow stripes, saying life was too short for ordinary doors. He called Marcus immediately. Try Rainbow House, all one word. They heard typing, then a gasp. It worked. The files are unlocking. Oh my God. What is it? Project Nightshade wasn't just about weapons. They were developing targeted poisons, things that could make deaths look natural, but they needed test subjects. They used their own employees, people who knew too much. Like Sarah, Adam said quietly. There's more. The project head, It was Richard Carlton, Marcus Carlton's son. Adam felt cold anger spread through his chest. Richard Carlton, the man who'd been trying to buy out Whitmore Industries for years. Sarah found out what they were doing, Marcus continued. She collected proof, videos, documents, everything, but they caught her downloading the files. That's why she ran. Can you send copies of everything to James? Already doing it, but Adam, be careful. This is enough to destroy Carlton Industries. They'll do anything to keep it quiet. As if to prove his point, Adam's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Midnight, Carlton Plaza Hotel. Come alone if you want this to end quietly. Lucy tugged at his sleeve. Daddy, can you read me a story? I'm scared to sleep alone. Adam looked at his daughter's face, so much like Sarah's, and made a decision. He'd spent 10 years wishing he could change the past, wishing he'd been there to protect Sarah. He wouldn't make the same mistake with Lucy. Of course, sweetheart. Let's find a good book. After Lucy was asleep, he called James. I need you to set up a meeting tomorrow morning, every major news outlet in the city. It's time everyone knew what Carlton Industries really is. They'll try to stop you, James warned. Let them try. Adam's voice was hard. They took Sarah from me. They made my daughter live in fear. Now they'll learn what happens when you threaten a Whitmore. He looked at the clock, 11:30 p.m. The Carlton Plaza Hotel wasn't far. One more thing, he told James. If anything happens, to me, make sure Lucy stays with Rachel, and make sure everyone knows what Carlton Industries did to her mother. Adam, don't... But he'd already hung up. He kissed Lucy's forehead gently, praying it wouldn't be for the last time. I love you, sweetheart, he whispered. Everything I do for you. Then he grabbed his coat and headed for the door. It was time to face the people who had destroyed Sarah's life, and this time he wouldn't let them get away with it. But as he rode the elevator down, Adam didn't notice the shadow that slipped into the stairwell. Someone else had plans for tonight. Someone who had been watching and waiting for exactly this moment. The Carlton Plaza Hotel lobby was deserted at this late hour. Adam's footsteps echoed on the marble floor as he walked toward the elevator. His phone buzzed again. Penthouse, of course, he thought. Richard Carlton always did like to look down on everyone else. The elevator doors opened to reveal a luxurious suite with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Richard Carlton stood at the window, a drink in his hand. Adam Whitmore, he said without turning around. I was starting to think you wouldn't come. Where else would I be? Adam kept his voice steady. You killed Sarah. You tried to kill my daughter. Did you think I'd just let that go? Richard finally turned, and Adam was struck by how ordinary he looked, just another wealthy man in an expensive suit, not at all like someone who'd ordered multiple murders. Sarah made her choice, Richard said calmly. We offered her a place in the project. She could have been rich, powerful. Instead, she chose to betray us. She chose to be human, Adam snapped. Something you wouldn't understand. Richard sighed, setting down his drink. You have something that belongs to us. Give me the locket. And this ends here. You and your daughter can live your life in peace. Like Sarah lived in peace, Adam's hands clenched into fists. Running from city to city, looking over her shoulder, knowing you'd kill her eventually. Sarah's death was regrettable but necessary. The work we're doing at Carlton Industries will change the world. We can't let one sentimental woman destroy that. You mean the work where you poison innocent people to test your weapons? Richard's face hardened. Last chance, Whitmore. The locket. Or what? A new voice asked. They both turned to see Victoria Pierce step out of the shadows holding a gun. Victoria. Adam was stunned. What are you doing here? She smiled. But it wasn't the smile he remembered. This was cold, calculated. Insurance, darling. Did you really think I dated you for 6 months because I liked you? She works for us, Richard explained, looking amused. Has for years. Very. Useful for keeping tabs on our competitors. Adam felt sick. All those dinner conversations about his company, his plans, he'd told her everything. I have to admit, Victoria said, finding out about your long-lost daughter was a surprise. We thought all evidence of Sarah's life had been erased. But then little Lucy showed up and, well, she shrugged. Sometimes life hands you exactly what you need. If you touch her. Adam started forward, but Victoria's gun didn't waver. "Oh, we don't need to touch her," Richard said smoothly. "In fact, by now, she's probably already feeling the effects." Adam's blood ran cold. "What are you talking about? That teddy bear she loves so much?" Victoria smiled. "The one she hasn't let go of since you bought it? It's amazing what you can treat fabric with these days. Slow acting, nearly untraceable, just like what we used on her mother." Adam's world tilted. Charlie the bear, he'd bought it himself. They'd known, they'd been waiting. "By morning she'll be sick," Richard continued. "In a week she'll be dead. Unless I give you the locket," Adam finished, his voice hollow. "And sign over controlling interest in Whitmore Industries," Richard added. "Can't leave any loose ends this time." Adam's phone buzzed in his pocket. A text from Rachel. "Lucy's running a fever. Won't wake up. Called ambulance." His hands shook as he read it. "You monsters." "Tick-tock, Adam," Victoria taunted. "What's it going to be? Your company and Sarah's precious evidence, or your daughter's life?" But before Adam could answer, the penthouse doors burst open. James rushed in, followed by a dozen FBI agents with guns drawn. "Federal agents! Everyone freeze!" Victoria spun to shoot, but an agent was faster. She fell, the gun skittering across the floor. Richard lunged for a hidden door, but two agents tackled him. "We got your call," James told Adam as Richard was handcuffed. "The FBI has been building a case against Carlton Industries for months. They just needed proof." "Lucy," Adam gasped. "They poisoned her. We need already taken care of," James assured him. "Marcus decoded the rest of Sarah's files an hour ago, including the formulas for all their poisons and the antidotes. A medical team is with Lucy right now." Adam sagged with relief, then turned to Richard, who was being led away. "She was your sister," he said quietly. Richard stopped. "What?" "Sarah. She was your half-sister. That's how she got access to the project. In the first place. Your father had an affair with her mother years ago. She found out when she started working there. That's why she couldn't come to me. She was trying to protect her brother, even after she discovered what you really were." Richard's face went white. "You're lying." "It's in her files, everything is. She kept hoping you'd change, right up until the end. She died protecting her daughter and her brother." Adam stepped closer. "And you killed her anyway." The FBI led Richard away, his face a mask of shock and rage. Adam rushed to the hospital, his heart pounding. He found Lucy in a private room, already looking better as the antidote took effect. "Daddy!" She reached for him with a weak smile. "I had bad dreams." He gathered her in his arms, tears streaming down his face. "They're over now, sweetheart. The bad dreams are all over." Rachel touched his shoulder. "The doctors say she'll be fine. The antidote worked perfectly." Adam nodded, not trusting himself to speak. He'd almost lost her, just like he'd lost Sarah. "Daddy?" Lucy's voice was sleepy. "Can we go home now?" "Soon, sweetheart. Very soon." He kissed her forehead. "And then nothing will ever separate us again." But even as he held his daughter, Adam knew this wasn't quite over. Richard and Victoria were caught, but there were others involved in Project Nightshade. And somewhere out there, Sarah's killer was still free. The night wasn't over yet. And Adam Whitmore had promises to keep, to his daughter, and to the woman he'd loved and lost. The morning sun streamed through the hospital windows as Lucy slept peacefully. The antidote had worked its magic, and the doctors said she could go home tomorrow. Adam hadn't left her side all night, afraid that if he looked away even for a moment, she might disappear. Rachel brought him coffee and a change of clothes. "The FBI wants to talk to you again," she said softly. "They found something in Victoria's apartment. I'm not leaving, Lucy. They're coming here." Rachel squeezed his shoulder. "Adam, they found Sarah's diary." His head snapped up. "What?" "Victoria had it all along. She'd been studying it, learning about your relationship with Sarah, using it to get close to you." Before Adam could respond, two FBI agents entered the room. Agent Martinez, a serious woman in her 40s, carried a worn leather notebook. "Mr. Whitmore," she said quietly, mindful of Lucy sleeping. "We need to discuss what we found." They moved to a corner of the room where they could talk without disturbing Lucy. Sarah Carlton Harrison, Agent Martinez began, was indeed Richard Carlton's half-sister, but there's more. She didn't just stumble onto Project Nightshade by accident. She was deliberately placed there by someone inside Carlton Industries, someone who suspected what Richard was doing and wanted proof. Who? Marcus Carlton himself, Sarah's father. Adam felt like he'd been punched. Marcus knew? All this time? According to Sarah's diary, Marcus discovered Richard's experiments but couldn't prove anything. He reached out to Sarah, told her the truth about her parentage, and asked for her help. She agreed to take a job at Carlton Industries and gather evidence. But something went wrong, Adam said. Agent Martinez nodded. Richard discovered who she really was. Not that she was gathering evidence, but that she was his sister. He tried to bring her into the project willingly. When she refused, he decided she was a threat. Adam's voice was hollow. There's something else you should see. She opened the diary to a marked page. This entry is from the day she left you. Adam took the diary with trembling hands and read, My dearest Adam, I'm sitting in our bedroom, watching you sleep, knowing these are my last moments with you. Richard found out about the baby today. He threatened to hurt you both if I didn't disappear. Said it would be easy to make it look like an accident, just like the others. I can't risk your life. I won't risk our child's life. So I'm leaving, taking our little miracle with me. Maybe someday when I have enough evidence to stop them, we can be together again. I love you so much. Please forgive me. Adam's vision blurred with tears. All these years he'd wondered why she'd left. Now he knew. She'd been protecting him, protecting their unborn child. Lucy stirred in her sleep, whimpering. Adam was by her side instantly, stroking her hair until she settled. We found something else, Agent Martinez said. A video message recorded the day before Sarah died. She must have known they were closing in. She handed Adam a small tablet. On the screen, Sarah's face appeared. Thin and pale, but still beautiful. Adam, if you're watching this, then Lucy found you just like I prayed she would. There's so much I want to tell you, so much I need you to understand. But first, you need to know about Marcus. He's not what Richard thinks he is. Project Nightshade wasn't Richard's idea. It was his mother's, Eleanor Carlton. She and Marcus's brother, James Carlton, have been running it for years. Marcus has been trying to stop them, but they're too powerful. They have people everywhere, in the company, in the government, even in your company, Adam. The evidence in the locket isn't just about the project. It's about everything. All their crimes, all their victims. Marcus helped me gather it. He's been protecting me as much as he could, but now... Sarah coughed, looking even more fragile. Lucy, my darling girl, if you're watching this, I'm so sorry I had to leave you. But you're with your father now. He's a good man, the best man I've ever known. Trust him, love him, and know that everything I did for you. Adam, I never stopped loving you, not for a single day. Take care of our daughter, and be careful. Eleanor won't stop until she has everything she wants. The video cut off abruptly. Eleanor Carlton, Agent Martinez said. We've been trying to build a case against her for years, but she's careful, ruthless, and now that Richard's been arrested, she'll be desperate, Adam finished. And desperate people make mistakes. A soft voice came from the bed. Daddy? Adam was there in an instant. I'm here, sweetheart. Lucy's eyes were clearer now, the fever gone. I had a dream about Mommy. She was smiling. She said everything would be okay now. Adam hugged her close, breathing in her sweet child scent. It will be, sweetheart. I promise. But over Lucy's head, he met Agent Martinez's eyes. They both knew this wasn't over. Eleanor Carlton was still out there, and she'd just lost her son to prison. She'd want revenge. And somewhere in the city, in a mansion overlooking the ocean, Eleanor Carlton was already planning her next move. She stood at her window, phone in hand, making calls to old friends in high places. It's time, she told each one. Adam Whitmore has destroyed my son. Now we'll destroy everything he loves. The war wasn't over. It was just beginning. And this time the stakes were even higher. Adam held Lucy tighter, remembering Sarah's warning. He'd lost Sarah to this fight. He wouldn't lose Lucy, too. Whatever Eleanor Carlton was planning, he'd be ready. The sun rose higher over the city. bringing a new day and new dangers. But for now, in this quiet hospital room, a father and daughter held on to each other, finding strength in the love that Sarah had sacrificed everything to protect. A week after Lucy came home from the hospital, life had settled into a new normal. Adam worked from home, turning his living room into a temporary office so he could keep Lucy in sight. She was getting stronger every day, filling the penthouse with her laughter and endless questions about everything. But beneath the peaceful surface, Adam was preparing for war. Eleanor Carlton has been busy, James reported during their daily security briefing. She's called in favors from half the power players in New York. Yesterday, 3 of your board members suddenly sold their shares. Care to guess who bought them? Shell companies owned by Carlton Industries, Adam said grimly. She's trying to take control of your company from the inside, just like Richard planned. Adam looked out the window, where Lucy was playing with Emma in the rooftop garden, surrounded by security guards. Let her try. His phone buzzed, a text from Marcus Carlton. Need to meet. Urgent. Come alone. Adam hesitated. Marcus might be Sarah's father, might have tried to help her, but he was still a Carlton. I'll go, he decided, but have a team ready. The meeting place was St. Patrick's Cathedral, neutral ground and public enough to be relatively safe. Adam found Marcus sitting in a back pew, looking older and more tired than ever. Eleanor knows. About the video, Marcus said without preamble. She has people in the FBI. They told her what Sarah revealed. About you helping her. Marcus nodded. She's planning something big, not just taking over your company. She wants Lucy. Adam's blood ran cold. Why? Because Lucy is a Carlton by blood. With Richard in prison, she's the only heir left. Eleanor thinks she can mold her, turn her into Richard's replacement, over my dead body. That's exactly what she's planning. Marcus handed him an envelope. These are documents proving Eleanor's involvement in Project Nightshade from the beginning. Bank records, emails, everything. I've kept them hidden for years, waiting for the right moment. Why give them to me now? Because I failed Sarah, Marcus's voice broke. I thought I could protect her, but I wasn't strong enough to stand up to Eleanor. I won't fail my granddaughter too. Adam studied the old man's face. Sarah forgave you, you know, in the video. She understood you were trying to help. Tears rolled down Marcus's cheeks. I never even got to hold her, to tell her I was her father. Eleanor threatened to kill her mother if I ever acknowledged her. By the time I found her again, working at Carlton Industries, it was too late. Suddenly, Adam's phone rang. Rachel panicked. Adam, they took her. Eleanor's men, they grabbed Lucy from the garden. Emma tried to stop them, but they hurt her, and Adam was already running. Call the FBI, I'm on my way. But when he reached his building, he found chaos. 2 security guards were down. Emma was being loaded into an ambulance with a broken arm, and Lucy was gone. Then his phone buzzed again, a message from Eleanor Carlton. The Palmer Hotel, 1 hour. Come alone or you'll never see her again. Rachel grabbed his arm. Adam, wait, it's a trap. I know. He hugged her quickly. But I have to go. Lucy needs me. Then you're not going alone. James stepped forward, followed by Agent Martinez and a team of FBI agents. We've been waiting for Eleanor to make a mistake. This is it. No. Adam's voice was firm. She'll have people watching. If she sees anyone with me, she'll hurt Lucy. Then we'll be invisible, Agent Martinez said. Trust us, Mr. Whitmore. We want Eleanor Carlton as badly as you do. Adam looked at his watch. 50 minutes left. The Palmer Hotel was one of the oldest in New York, a towering Gothic structure that had seen better days. Adam walked through the empty lobby, following texted instructions to the ballroom on the top floor. He found Eleanor Carlton sitting on what looked like a throne, an ornate chair placed on the stage where bands had once played. Lucy was nowhere in sight. Where is she? Adam demanded. Eleanor smiled coldly. Safe, for now. Did you really think I'd let you turn my son against me? Let you destroy everything I've built? Richard turned against you all on his own, just like Sarah did. Sarah, Eleanor spat the name. The mistake that should have been buried years ago, just like her mother, Lucy's mother, your granddaughter, a complication that will soon be resolved. Eleanor stood. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to sign over your company to me, all of it. Then you're going to tell the FBI that Richard is innocent, that you framed him out of business rivalry. And Lucy? Lucy will stay with me. She'll be raised properly as a Carlton should be. In time, she won't even remember you. Adam felt rage building in his chest. You're insane. No, I'm practical. The Carlton name means something. It opens. Doors commands respect. I won't let you and Sarah's brat destroy that. My name is Lucy Whitmore, a small voice rang out. And you're a mean old lady. Everyone turned. Lucy stood in a doorway held by one of Eleanor's men, but she wasn't crying or afraid. She was angry. You hurt my mommy, Lucy shouted. You hurt Emma. You're the bad person Mommy warned me about. Eleanor's face twisted with rage. Shut that child up. But Lucy wasn't finished. Daddy, the locket. Remember what Mommy said in the video. Sarah's last message cut off before she could finish. What had she been trying to tell him about Eleanor? Then Adam remembered. The locket wasn't just a USB drive. It was Sarah's locket, the one she'd worn every day until Eleanor had visited her the day before she died. She was wearing it when you went to see her, Adam said slowly. She recorded you, didn't she? On the locket. Eleanor's smile faltered. You're being ridiculous. Adam pulled out his phone, dialed Marcus. The locket. Check the audio files. Seconds later, a voice filled the ballroom. Eleanor's voice, recorded 10 years ago. You should have stayed away, Sarah. Should have kept your mouth shut about the project. But you had to play hero, didn't you? Had to try to save everyone. Well, now you'll die slowly, painfully, just like all the others. And your precious daughter will never know the truth. Helena lunged for a gun hidden in her jacket, but she never got the chance to use it. FBI agents burst from every doorway, weapons drawn. Eleanor Carlton, Agent Martinez's voice rang out. You're under arrest for the murder of Sarah Harrison and conspiracy to commit multiple homicides. The man holding Lucy tried to run, but James tackled him. Lucy broke free and ran straight into Adam's arms. I was so scared, she whispered. But I remembered what Mommy wrote in her diary. About being brave, about standing up to bad people. Adam held her tight, watching as Eleanor was led away in handcuffs, still screaming threats. You did good, sweetheart, he said. You did so good. Your mommy would be proud. Later, as they sat in their favorite ice cream shop, Lucy insisted on celebrating with a banana split. Adam asked her something that had been bothering him. How did you know about the locket's audio files? Lucy smiled Sarah's smile. I didn't. But Mommy always said the locket was special because it held secrets. I just thought maybe it held that secret too. Adam hugged her close, marveling at how much of Sarah lived on in their daughter. The next day's newspapers would be full of the story, the fall of Eleanor Carlton, the exposure of Project Nightshade, the revelation of decades of corporate crimes. But none of that mattered as much as this moment, sharing ice cream with his daughter, watching her face light up as she talked about wanting to be a detective when she grew up. Just like Mommy, she said proudly. She solved the biggest mystery of all. She sure did, sweetheart. Adam wiped ice cream from her chin. She sure did. But even as they celebrated, Adam knew there was one last thing he had to do. One final promise to keep, not just to Sarah but to Lucy and himself. 1 month after Eleanor Carlton's arrest, Adam stood in front of a small blue house with a faded door. Lucy held his hand, clutching Charlie the bear, now thoroughly cleaned, and declared safe in her other arm. This is it? She asked, looking up at the house. Where you and Mommy lived. This is it. Adam smiled at the memories. The little house with the rainbow door. The door wasn't rainbow-colored anymore. Time and weather had worn away Sarah's cheerful paint job, but Adam had a plan for that. Ready to see inside? Lucy nodded eagerly. Adam pulled out a key. It had taken some doing to track down the current owner and buy the house, but some things were worth any price. Inside, the house was dusty but otherwise unchanged. Adam led Lucy to the living room, where he and Sarah had spent so many evenings planning their future. Look, he pointed to a mark on the doorframe. Your mom made that mark to measure how tall I was. She was always teasing me about being too tall for the low ceilings. Lucy ran her fingers over the pencil mark. Can we measure me too? Of course. But first, Adam pulled out an envelope, Sarah's letter to Lucy, the one Mrs. Pearson had kept. "I think it's time for you to read this." Lucy took the envelope carefully. "Will you read it with me?" They sat on the old window seat, still sturdy after all these years, and Lucy opened the letter with trembling fingers. "My dearest Lucy," she read aloud, "by the time you read this, you'll be with your father. I know in my heart that you'll find him, that he'll love you as much as I do. I'm so sorry I had to leave you, my brave girl, but there are some things you need to know. First, never doubt that you were loved. Your father didn't abandon us. I left to protect you both. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, but I'd do it again to keep you safe. Second, remember that being brave doesn't mean not being scared. It means doing what's right even when you are scared. You've been so brave, my little warrior. Third, and most important, forgive. Forgive your grandfather Marcus for not being strong enough to stand up to Eleanor sooner. Forgive your father for not finding us. He didn't know to look. And please, forgive me for leaving you. The little house with the rainbow door was where I was happiest. It was where I fell in love with your father, where I dreamed of you before you were born. I hope someday you'll see it, touch the walls that held so much love. I love you, my Lucy. I love you more than stars in the sky, more than waves in the ocean, more than all the rainbows that will ever be painted on all the doors in the world. Be happy, be loved, be yourself. All my love forever, Mommy." Lucy wiped tears from her cheeks. "Can we paint the door rainbow colors again?" Adam hugged her close. "That's exactly what I was thinking. I bought the house, Lucy, for us." "Really?" Her eyes lit up. "We're going to live here?" "If you want to. We can keep the penthouse for when we need to be in the city, but I thought maybe this could be our real home. With a rainbow door?" "With a rainbow door." They spent the afternoon buying paint, and as the sun set, they worked together painting the door in bright stripes, just like Sarah had done all those years ago. Marcus came to visit as they finished, looking uncertain until Lucy ran to hug him. "Grandpa, look what we did." Marcus's eyes filled with tears as he looked at the rainbow door. "It's just like she made it." "We're going to live here," Lucy announced. "Want to see my room? Daddy says I can paint the walls any color I want." As Lucy led Marcus on a tour of the house, Rachel arrived with Emma, whose arm was healing well. "A bit different from your penthouse," Rachel teased. "It's perfect," Adam said. "It's home." Later that night, after Lucy was asleep in what would be her new room, Adam sat on the porch steps. The stars were brighter here, away from the city lights. He pulled out a small box. Inside was a single key attached to a rainbow keychain. Tomorrow was Lucy's birthday, and this would be his gift to her, her very own key to her very own home. Shooting stars streaked across the sky, and Adam smiled, remembering how Sarah used to say that shooting stars were heaven's way of winking at us. "We did it, Sarah," he whispered to the night sky. "We're home." Inside, Lucy dreamed of rainbows and shooting stars, of a mother's love that would never fade, and of a father's love that had waited so long to be given. The next morning, the little house with the rainbow door would begin its new chapter. There would be laughter in its rooms again, love in its walls, and hope in every bright stripe of its door. And somewhere, Sarah was smiling, knowing that the two people she loved most in the world had finally found their way home, to each other, and to the little house where love had never really left. As the stars twinkled overhead, a gentle breeze stirred the wind chimes Sarah had hung so long ago, their soft music a lullaby for the family she had fought so hard to protect. Adam touched the rainbow door one last time before going inside. "Thank you," he whispered, to Sarah, to fate, to whatever force had brought his daughter back to him. In the years to come, the little house with the rainbow door would become famous in the neighborhood. Not because a wealthy businessman lived there, or because it had been part of a scandal that brought down one of the city's most powerful families. No, it would be famous for the love that lived there, for the father and daughter who painted the Dr. Rainbow colors every spring, for the garden full of Sarah's favorite flowers, for the laughter that floated from its windows and the light that always seemed to shine from within, and for Lucy Whitmore, who grew up to be exactly what her mother had wished for her, happy, loved, and completely herself. The end.